You know, a couple of weeks ago I had a perfect round. Now we almost went with the reverse. Hello guys, it's 899 here and welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be going through our tips and predictions for round 14 of the 2026 NRL season. We're officially halfway through the year. This is where it starts to get pointy. Last week, we should ignore last week actually, because I think we only got one prediction correct, and it was the team I support, so that's lucky. So hopefully we try to do a lot better this week. Starting off on Thursday, we have the Manly Sea Eagles taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Manly Sea Eagles are coming off a close game against the Cronulla Sharks, while South Sydney are coming off a bye. Match should be quite interesting, being 5th versus 6th, and obviously you've had the recent news of Kieran Foran being signed to a 3-year deal to continue as Manly coach, which is, yeah, it's probably the right choice, because as soon as he came in, he's been absolute relation for the team. It's going to be an interesting one. You got Manly just coming off that loss, which it was such a weird game, that Sharks Sea Eagles matchup. Rabbitohs coming off the bye should be a little bit interesting. It's hard to predict with these two teams, but I'm going to say that I think Manly should get the job done. Could be a close one though. And now we're going to the Friday matches, where at 6 PM we have the Melbourne Storm taking on the Newcastle Knights. Now the Storm are coming off an 18-4 win over the Sydney Roosters, while the Knights are coming off a 28-22 win over the Parramatta Eels. But it wasn't a convincing one from the Knights, we'll admit. Despite the obvious ladder positioning, I think this is where the Knights' run of current wins kind of ends, because I just think, because with the teams we've been playing in this sort of run, the only team that's somewhat of note is the Rabbitohs, because we've played against St George, the Titans, and then Parramatta. But Parramatta actually gave us a pretty decent matchup. Gonna be hard to say. I do want to say that the Knights win this, but I think Melbourne should start to come back, and I'm going to say that I think the Storm get the win as they start getting their form back to try to get back into the top 8. And we go to 8 PM on the Friday, as we have the Canberra Raiders taking on the Sydney Roosters. Now the Canberra Raiders are coming off a 14-point win over the North Queensland Cowboys, whilst the Sydney Roosters are coming off, as previously mentioned, a 18-4 loss to the Melbourne Storm away from home. It's been a pretty interesting season so far for the Roosters, because they have been a bit lapsed in some of their matches, but they are still a top 4 side. Canberra obviously trying to start a comeback, trying to get their form, especially as we enter the second half of the year. So it should be an interesting game, but I think the Roosters are just going to be too good for Canberra. I just think, especially coming into, with everyone back now from Origin proper, it should be a pretty smooth sailing for the Roosters. Now we go on to the Saturday matches, where at 5:30 we have the North Queensland Cowboys taking on the Dolphins. Now the Cowboys are coming off a previously mentioned 14-point loss to the Raiders, whilst the Dolphins come off the bye. This game will be interesting, as whoever wins this will be in the top 8, with the Cowboys being in 9th. They will leapfrog the Dolphins, and the Dolphins can start opening up a bit of a gap as they look for their first finals berth. Should be a good game, to say the very least, of two Queensland teams, so it should be pretty exciting. In terms of I'm going to tip in this game, I just am going to give the edge just about to the Dolphins. I do think this should be a close game, but I just feel like the Dolphins have a stronger side at the moment, so I'll go with the Finns. And now we go into the 7:35 matchup on the Saturday, as we have the Brisbane Broncos taking on the Gold Coast Titans. As the Broncos are coming off losing to the St George Illawarra Dragons, whilst the Titans were the third and final team to have a bye last round. The Broncos have definitely been affected by the result last week. It's especially in terms of who they had in the sheds after the game. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty scared for the Titans players, allegedly. But yeah, this should be a very interesting game. Brisbane need a result to wake up to themselves. Be really cool to see if the Titans do win this game, but I just don't see them doing that at this point. So I'm going to say that I think the Broncos should get the win. Now we go to the Sunday match at 2 PM. We have the West Tigers taking on the Parramatta Eels. The Tigers are coming off a win over the Bulldogs, whilst the Panthers are coming off a close win over the Warriors in a top of the table clash. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how this game does go. I think Penrith still, well, now first. They've beaten second place, so pretty much now they're the favourites to get the minor premiership and just keep things going smooth. Tigers need a win to see if they can jump into the top 8. It'll be a feisty one, but I'm a coward, so I'm going to give it to the Panthers. Now we go into the 4:05 kickoff on the Sunday as we have the Cronulla Sharks taking on the St George Illawarra Dragons. The Sharks are coming off a close win over the Manly Seagulls, whilst the St George Illawarra Dragons, after 290 plus days, have won an NRL match, defeating the Brisbane Broncos. Honestly, fair play to them. I feel like a win's been kind of due to them in the last couple of weeks because they have been improving, and they've now finally got the job done. Monkeys off their back. Now, do they make it 2 from 2? The thing is, though, the Sharks are a kind of team where it could happen, but I do think it's like, right, they need to actually lock in. So I'm going to say that I think the Sharks will get over the line and get the win, but it will be close because the Sharks like doing that to themselves. And now we go to a Monday night matchup at 4:05 PM. We have the Canterbury Bulldogs taking on the Parramatta Eels in a match that I like to describe as the hard times derby. Obviously, this is one of the biggest rivalry matches for the Parramatta Eels, second only to their own fans. This will be quite an interesting contest. Bulldogs obviously coming off their loss to the Tigers, whilst the Eels coming off a close loss to the Knights. So really anything could happen in this game. Despite the fact that Parramatta come short over the last couple of weeks, I think they've definitely improved. And I think they're going to get the win here, so we can dispel the, oh, you just picked the favourites. I think Parramatta should be able to get the job done and get the victory there. So yeah, those are my predictions for round 14. Who do you guys have in this round? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.